And the use case is my child missed the train, they're whatever, 8 years old, I'm a irresponsible parent and didn't keep track of them, but they didn't get on the train, where are they? And through video analytics, I can describe they're wearing a red hat and a blue shirt and they're about this tall, and the system can go and scan and find that individual person and actually show where they are. So I think it's a very exciting area.
Welcome to Coffee with Mr. IoT. My name is Robert Schmidt. I am Deloitte's Chief Futurist, also known as Mr. IoT. Today on my show I have Jon Kawamura, another executive within Deloitte. We've known each other for 20 years?
I was going to bring that up. I didn't want to date us, but it's been about 20 years, Robert. And I was thinking that when I first met you, you were Mr. .com at the time.
That's right.
And you've progressed on from .com to Mr. E-commerce and now Mr. IoT. I'm very proud of all you've accomplished.
I gotta say, it's been sort of one of my favorite things about Deloitte it's my second time at Deloitte, right? I came back, and to work again with you and with people like you, it's just sort of it's special. It has its own little flavor to it.
We're family.
So, exactly.
People leave the nest and come back with different experiences, but we're always family.
So Jon, tell us a little bit of what you do for Deloitte. What's your role? Your role has changed over the years too.
Yeah, I've been a career consultant. I've been with Deloitte for many, many years. I don't want to date myself and tell you precisely how many years, but
we know it's more than 20 now. But okay.
It's exactly 20. Maybe a few more than that. But as a career consultant, I've remade myself many different times over the years. And when I was working with you at first, I was learning largely from you about the .com and e-commerce industry. Today I'm the lead consulting partner for a couple of Silicon Valley accounts, which has been tremendously rewarding because I help them, Deloitte and myself help them with digital transformation, which today is the main theme among many companies in Silicon Valley.
Being a consultant in the Silicon Valley, let's talk a little bit about this. The Silicon Valley is it's the birthplace of many ideas. There's lots and lots of smart people. How can we still be consultants with so many smart people around?
Well, that's a great question because some of our clients are far smarter than we are in many perspectives. However, what we bring to the table is a little bit of a marketing pitch, but I think it's true that our 300,000 plus people bring capabilities on just about any topic today. Being with Deloitte for many years, I can't say that we were always able to do that. I think probably about 10, 15 years ago is when it started to feel like we figured something out here. And our growth has been tremendous since about the beginning of 2004, 2005, when many of the companies were spinning off their consulting practices, and we decided to keep ours. And at the time, I was thinking we are either absolutely stupid because nobody else is doing this, or we're brilliant. And now with time, I'd say that we are brilliant. By accident or by design, but nonetheless, I'm very proud of who we are because for my clients, I can bring in experts on just about any topic, and the size that we have today has made it very possible.
I think there is really, what I hear you talk about is this multi-functional approach that we can bring to the table. Very few people can do that, to really bring people out of human capital, as we call them, out of technology, out of strategy, and bring it all into one team. And actually the thing is, we kind of like each other as much as we that's the thing that I always find amazing, that the diversity we bring, we actually enjoy that. Is that true for you too?
That's largely true. So I think in a good way, we don't like everybody, but one size doesn't fit all. So our clients might love you and not like me, and that's okay. That's okay, and that's why we bring different diversity. I think our diversity spans across consulting, as you were describing, but also across what we call Green Dot.
What's Green Dot for people who don't know?
Green Dot, so our little logo, actually our big logo, at the end of the Deloitte is a green dot, which when we first came out with that, we affectionately started to call it the Green Dot, which represents all of the firm, including our risk and financial advisory practice, our tax practice, and of course consulting. The reason that's important in this context is that many of our competitors can bring in siloed capabilities, we can bring in everything, not just in terms of consulting and business experience, but also I can bring in people from our tax group. We can talk all day about transfer pricing and tax advantage, R&D, and D, and many other things. And we can bring in people from our risk advisor, our cyber practice. We can talk about securing physical and digital assets. So there's almost anything that's out there that we can bring in. We also have legal capability and recruiting capability, all things that are new to us. But we're a full service firm. I've drank the Kool-Aid, but because I've been here for so long, I've experienced our transformation, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's funny, right? You say you drank the Kool-Aid. I even came back. I left and came back, so I don't know what sort of like more drinking the Kool-Aid. But I find it interesting, right? I always think of tax, for example. People go like, you have this too probably. People come and say, "Oh, you're a consultant. I thought you only do audit and tax." But for us in IoT, tax often is an important aspect. Our companies that we work with, our clients, do a lot of research and development, and then they get tax credits for that. And if they don't take advantage of that, that would sort of be a loss, and we can bring them together.
Yes.
Cyber, exactly the same, right? We
You're
really.
That,
What's that?
Do you still hear that? You're an audit firm? It's been a while since I've heard that.
I just heard it 2 days ago here, right? And so I had someone, actually, they came to me and said, we audit them. And they said, I didn't know you do this, but it's like, yes, we do. So they actually stopped me on we're here at IoT's Solution World Congress, and they stopped me on the big 30 by 30 virtual factory we have and said, what is this? And I explained to them, so it was funny that way.
Yeah.
No, but what I was going to say, cyber is another part of that, right? Sort of really the security has become an important aspect of any technology project, any implementation we do. So let's talk about the show here. Let's talk about what you've seen. I'm curious, you've been here for a day, you were on a panel. Tell us a little bit about the show. Actually, by the way, just so in case you're wondering, we have right behind us the Dev Zoo going on. There's a team this morning coming together, planning what they're going to develop in one day. So that's one of the really exciting features here we have at the show. What have you seen? What have you liked? What's going on for you? Give us some of your nuggets of your first day.
Yeah, so what's been interesting for me is that this is only my second time at this conference. And even the difference from last year to this year, there's a lot more density, so many, many more companies, it feels like, than previously. And even last year, it felt like a lot of the focus was on tools. So microservices, this and that, and there were some solutions, but what's very different now is most of the conversations are around what is the business issue, how we can go solve it. I just sat in on one of the panel discussions around transportation of, 2040, sometime in the future. And it was really fascinating. It gave me some insights because one of the panelists talked about AOP, airport or airline operating platforms. And I was thinking that's a great illustration of a specialized but big platform, data platform, that can be used across every airport. And at the moment, the discussion was around a specific one, but the opportunities around the data and the solutions are endless, so that the experience around transportation is changing very quickly from the time that I start thinking about going somewhere to actually at the destination when I get there, instead of just point pieces. So very fascinating. I really enjoyed that. And seeing some of my clients here as well has been very, very exciting, because we've helped them with their transformations over many years, and to see how they're changing from being mostly hardware companies into software and solution businesses, where they too are thinking about what am I trying to solve here for my customers and my clients, not just can I give you this box or that box, what color would you like and how big would you like it.
I have to tell you, when you said AOP, I jerked. I'm like, oh my God, we're talking about the annual operating plan now?
No,
it's funny when
different acronym.
it's funny when one acronym gets used for multiple things. I don't know if did they talk about video analytics also about the airport?
They did. So I'm not an expert on this, only a frequent traveler like yourself and most of us. But a gentleman from TSA was discussing around video analytics and how that's already changing things, where the identification through biometrics gets us in and out a lot more quickly. So as a frequent traveler, all these things are tremendously exciting, and all based on all the technology that's out there today.
I don't know if you walked around, but there were two booths actually that had video analytics running, and what they actually showed was a stickman overlaid on you. So when you stood there, they had a stickman, and they could, by analyzing the arms and the legs, make decisions. For example, in an airport, is there a problem in some area? Are people getting particularly animated or something like this? And by having stick overlays, that took the privacy out of it, because now you didn't have a face anymore and a name, but they could still make behavioral adjustments to that, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, so I was speaking with one of my clients, because they've been doing video analytics for quite a while, and they're switching from optical video to LiDAR.
Yeah.
So exactly for the same reason. And I've seen many of their demos over the last few years and seeing how that's evolving and shifting more toward trying to solve something. One example, they do a lot of work in transportation, and one example is that they keep track of people. And the use case is, my child missed the train, or whatever, 8 years old, I'm a irresponsible parent and didn't keep track of that, but they didn't get on the train, where are they? And through video analytics, I can describe they're wearing a red hat and a blue shirt, and they're about this tall, and the system can go and scan and find that individual person and actually show where they are. So I think it's a very exciting area.
It's amazing. It's really amazing.
One of our other clients, too, not one that I'm directly involved in, are building out the experience around entertainment in one of the parks based in the U.S. And one of the use cases around video analytics is trying to identify characteristics of underage individuals trying to crash cars. So I thought that was very interesting. I don't know how they solved it, but same concept of let's profile everybody somewhat anonymously, and based on whatever features, they can start to identify this person seems like they're not 18 or 21. I guess 21 is the drinking age.
Yesterday, I moderated a panel on positivity and technology.
Yeah, I saw that.
And one of the things that was interesting to me was we had a survey with 9,500 people in 8 countries. And it was about how positive do you feel that technology impacts your career. And so we showed the results, and we sliced and diced them in different ways, and we also sliced them by age. And I realized that I only fit in one of the 3 age groups, which was the highest one. And I realized I can't really make up stories about the other age groups. So I got on the phone, I had a call with representatives of each age group. And it was fascinating to me how the 26 to 45-year-old were much, much more concerned about privacy. And then I had one of our smart colleagues who's I think 24, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll be happy to give you my age and my personal data because you're going to give me better recommendations.
Yeah.
And then they had this whole lively conversation about how the 26 to 45-year-old said, well, but I don't want everybody to know what I do because I'm concerned I don't get my mortgage. And it was interesting to really observe how there was a true distinction, and we've seen this in our research, but privacy really sort of, I'm really curious how that's going to develop over the next few years.
Yeah.
What's your sort of personal experience about privacy that you have?
Fascinating. I only started thinking about it when you talked about it in the panel session, and it is fascinating that the younger crowd are very interested in the overall experience in life, and the privacy concerns aren't nearly as important to them. Maybe because many of us over the years have gotten hacked and what have you, we're a little bit more attuned to what some of the risks are. But it was a fascinating outcome. The other thing I was thinking about from the survey that was done, we talked primarily about different types of technologies. So we call it IoT and self-driving cars and blockchain. And I was thinking that part of the results of that was based on people understanding the technology or not. Like I'd say most people still don't know what a blockchain is. So therefore it was on the far right and the least positive because I think people don't know what it is. I was thinking, what is your perspective? If we had talked about applications like blockchain and called it privacy, security, capability, and we had attached solutions to each one of these instead of technologies, do you think the results might have been different?
Absolutely. I totally think the results would have been different, and I tell you why. So, just to sort of give people an update, what ended up happening is IoT won. Woo-woo. I don't know what winning.
53%. So
It was
53%.
53% people felt positive,
Yeah.
which I don't actually think is winning in my book. But
Okay.
it still came in the lead of all the technologies we looked at. And as you said, blockchain came in with the lowest number. I wrote this blog on LinkedIn, and I really think, and what the finding was, that familiarity doesn't necessarily breed positivity. So in other words, there wasn't a direct correlation, people being familiar with the technology leading to positivity. And my theory is two things. Number one, experience is actually what leads to positivity, having true experience, hands-on experience with it. And I think that also comes from an engaging experience. So if you have an application, to come back to your question, if you have an application that really engages you, that really you like, and that's tied to a technology, then you're going to like the technology.
Yeah.
So why do people love touchscreens? They don't love touchscreens because you can touch it. They love touchscreens because they have an iPhone, they have an Android. They have things that they touch, and they have an experience with that gives them a positive view of that technology, right? And I think the same is very true about, people have positive experiences with connected devices. They have thermostats at home. They have other things that they actually get something out of. I'm not sure if you and I get anything out of blockchain today. So
Not that I know of, at least, but yes.
well, I don't know. I'm not using
It might
blockchain
be,
today.
yeah.
Are you?
Not that I know of.
And I know there's amazing examples, right? Have you seen any blockchain examples in your work with other companies?
Not applications yet. We've had a lot of discussions around potential applications, like around secure supply chain. I think that's a very classic one. But I've not seen my clients yet go beyond and do anything more than dabbling. I think they're still trying to understand that particular technology and how to use it.
I feel like you're trying to interview around on me and answer more questions.
I'm good at that. Yeah. No, because I did have another question for you that I wanted, because I was staring at the.
Nice job. You're just a great consultant, John. I knew that, but man, you.
Yeah, can I borrow your watch so I can tell you what time it is? The analysis around the sentiment by country was fascinating to me. My eyes are not so good, so it's hard to see all the different colors. But
It was an eyesore.
But that I wanted to get your perspective too, because I couldn't really interpret like the sentiment, because they're clearly trends.
So there's the truth to why I didn't talk about it and why I didn't make it in the blog, because I thought it was too political for me to talk about countries. Also, I have a theory, and I'll share it with you. But the theory, I couldn't prove it. I didn't get to the data. But my theory is that the more a government invests into the technology, the more the sentiment goes up. It sort of emphasizes this: I care about you, therefore I'm going to support this technology to drive it. That's my theory. I really would have liked to go and do some research into what these countries invest in and see what public data is available.
Yeah.
And so, because what happened is China and Spain came at the top with a distinct difference to some of the Germany, UK, and US actually, and India was sort of between the two. And then I forgot who was at the bottom. I actually think Israel was pretty far down, which makes no sense to me, given how innovative Israel is in many ways. So, but I really think there's something around investment, and maybe that correlated with economic development that I would have liked to look at more.
Yeah.
But that's my fantasy. I call them fantasies. Why the data is what it is. That was my thought.
Yeah. So very interesting. Back to your question about the event here and tying into the experiences with my clients, the whole concept of ecosystems. I'm sure you've talked about that with many other guests as well. Is something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about. Because many of our clients, coming from more classic engineering backgrounds, have just a history of, we need to do something, let's go figure it out. Very, very smart people, but as we see the complexity of where all this is heading, solving the ecosystem partner for our clients, I think, is going to continue to be very key. I think we've figured it out. Many of our software practices dating back many, many years, like our SAP, Oracle, Salesforce practices, we understand how that all works, and we've made it very successful. but many of our clients are still kind of dabbling and trying to figure out how to do that, kind of break away from their cultural heritage of, if I need to do it, I need to own the whole thing, and that's not going to work. It's not scalable. So that's another prevalent topic. I think still we need to figure out how to crack that nut.
I love that, right? I think there's really something about breaking out of, there's competitors, there's vendors, and then there's me. And I think and then there's obviously clients, right? There's customers, vendors, and competitors. And I think often we need to look at them more as we all need to work together.
Yes.
And actually, by the way, blockchain might actually be a big facilitator in that context, so that you can actually share data with each other in a secure and in a controlled way. So I'm really looking forward to that. It might actually be interesting.
Yes.
I actually have a closing question for you, and it's much more of a personal question. I want to go back to reminiscing about you and I, and sort of, I have this one thought, and I want to close on that, but I want to give you a chance to start first, of what I so appreciate working with you. Curious, what do you remember thinking back to our time together? What sort of like one or two things that come to mind?
So the first one is easy because when I met you, I think you had, maybe it was pink hair. That was the trend at the time as part of your Mr.com image. But you were leading a very, very complicated project, carving out something that had never been done before. And when I was asked to join the project, just to help where I could, what I really appreciated about meeting you is kind of an unbridled, unbounded thought process. And I think that's true all the way through to, that's part of your DNA and your personality. And that's something I learned a lot from in that particular experience, because as a career consultant, everything's kind of buttoned up, you have structure around everything. But you were thinking like 12 dimensions beyond that. Like, how do we get this done? How do we make it better? And that was my first impression of you that's always been very positive. So when I think about like even the shirts that you're wearing, I wish I had the boldness to go do something like that. But I learned a lot from the experience of working with you. And I cut my teeth on a lot of new ideas that I had read about. And because of working with you, I got to experience.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and it's nice to hear. What came to mind when I thought of this question was, there's something that almost makes me choke up. There's a way of how you make people your allies, and there's something you taught me about managing down. I think many people manage up. Some people manage sideways, few people manage down, and I think there's something, you have a skill of creating allies around you and being an ally to people, and I really love this to this day, and so thanks for being here, thanks for being my ally through all these years, and thanks for being on the show. And with that, this is another coffee chat coming to an end. If you missed any of today's show or want to watch any previous shows, check out our playlist, search on YouTube for Coffee with Mr. IT. Thank you for watching.